Agus, here you're talking a lot about different problematics, and you are quite at the frontier, I would say, in most issues. So you are the one that sees the challenges first for your size. And do you always try to look for solutions in-house? Well, Mercado Libre is a mammoth; it's huge. So you could also buy companies. How are you trying to solve these problems? Right.
So I'd say we try to strike. Let me go back first. From a technology perspective, we always solve it in house. We never so we have convinced ourselves that our technology and the developers that we have are also a key differentiating factor and a key strategic advantage that Mercado Libre has. So from a technology perspective, and from the value of having um, let's say an interrelated and connected experience for the buyer with the whole technology stack, we have to do all the solutions. Like when Mercado Envios first started, we would have the warehouse management systems. We said, hey, warehouse management systems, we are an e-commerce company. We don't know how to do this. There are several companies that do this, very effectively. Let's just, use a third-party provider for the WMS. And it was very hard to integrate. We didn't control the experience. There were several features that we wanted the WMS to have that it didn't. So we kicked that away. We developed our own WMS, and so that I think is one experience where we saw technology. We have to do it.
Are you finding the people to do this within Latin America? Are you finding the talent? This Rado is going very deeply into your category as well. Is like searching for the talent to execute on this. And Agus, you also mentioned that you're looking for PhD students to solve a lot of your problems. You're trying to bring people in who can solve these things. And just like overall, Agus, are you finding these people? And Rado, what are you seeing as well, like on the headhunting scene that you're just sourcing the whole market? Is the talent there to solve these type of problems?
Yeah,
Is it is there enough supply?
I think and Radu can probably
Yeah.
complement me, but I think that one thing is Mercado Libre right now is first it has a culture that attracts people really well, but it also has a size that we look for the best in every part of the world. Like right now, for instance, my senior VP that runs all of our fulfillment operations, his name is Joe Nordman. He's from the US, but before that, he used to run all of the fulfillment operations in Kupang in South Korea. And so we're not just sourcing, not just fishing in our bowl of Latin American talent. We're at the point where we're able to get the best talent
Yeah.
from everywhere in the world. And I think that it's the same case with developers. We have a very much uh, uh, trying to work remotely, and that facilitates having the talent where they want to be. I think I'm probably the best example of that. Not because I'm a talent, but because I work mostly remotely. I live in Chile, which is probably our fourth largest market. One would think, head of shipping, you should be working either in Mexico or Brazil, but I just wanted to stay here. And I think we're able to manage that. My direct reports, I have one that lives in Mexico, one lives in the US, one lives in Brazil. I have two that live in Argentina, and one that lives here in Chile. We're not organized by countries. It's
Yeah, yeah.
organized by functions below me. So it's not like I have those spread out because they each run a geography. It's not like that. Um, so I think that in terms of talent, we're able to source really, really well and attract developers is always a challenge because developers can also work remotely for the US and for other countries, and that is the toughest competition, I would say. But the joy and the cultural connection that you get from working in Mercado Libre, if you live in Latin America, that's something that we offer that is pretty unique.
Absolutely. And then Radu, on what do you see over there? You are covering a global search for multi different type of roles, no matter what is the specific focus of the company of trying to help anything get from A to B. You're involved everywhere within the process. Um, what is the supply of supply chain logistics talent overall in the world at the moment? Is there enough? What's going on?
So maybe I'll zero in on Latin America and specifically Mexico has been an incredibly hot country. There's a big So I'll zoom out a little bit. So e-commerce is one thing. If we look even more big picture at the manufacturing footprints, right? So where are goods manufactured? There's been so much discussions. Geopolitics is very high on the discussion risk and discussion list, and as a risk for most companies. In order to de-risk that, China and US as two main players, but there's now smaller players, there's regional players, right? You have India, you have the war in Ukraine and Russia, you have a lot of different things. So the trend has been that, is going to continue to be that supply chains are going to get more and more regionalized. So specifically, to talk layman terms, simplistically, there's been a lot of production of goods that was moved and is going to continue to be moved in Mexico primarily because it's proximity to US. I think Brazil, there's a couple of other countries in Latin America that will benefit, but Mexico in specific, they've done tremendously well. Now, that has come with a boom of manufacturing facilities, fulfillment centers, you name it, especially in northern Mexico, yeah. And you don't have talent. Who's going to operate them? So when you put a factory that makes, you start making electronics. I mean, of course, there's different products, right? Some products are more simple to make or more easy to make. Some products are not. The more parts they have, right? So if you go into electronics, automotive, white goods, right? The more complex the supply chains, the longer the supply chains, the more parts that you get. In a car, you have 30,000 parts, right? One of my friends actually works for Airbus. In a plane, you have 3 million parts. But anyways, not to talk planes yet. So Mexico, all of a sudden, is now in a situation where there's a boom of factories, of distribution centers, and there's just not enough talent, especially not local talent. That is able to take all those jobs. And especially when you talk about doing parts for a car or doing parts of a laptop or these are fairly specialized skills. So we've been involved with several companies, including Tesla is opening a very large distribution center. We don't work with them for Mexico, but we've had to look for talent, whether it's been in other parts of Latin America, whether it's been in US, whether it's been increasingly also in Asia, to put it in these markets where there's new supply chains and manufacturing facilities being developed, i.e. Mexico, US as well. It's been all over the news. They've done there's still a lot of incentives to bring manufacturing to US. Again, it doesn't make sense for most things, but for chips, semiconductors, we all know the geopolitics of semiconductors, that literally these chips that go into every single device, every single electronic. It's the way that the US has decided that they want to kind of keep China at bay. They've put some huge fabs in Arizona in particular and in Texas. There's no such people that can manage those facilities anymore in US. US has outsourced manufacturing long time back. So we actually were in a position where we worked with a couple of semiconductor companies, and we placed some were American citizens that were working in Asia for a long time that went back. Some were others, right? I mean, maybe people from that were running different factories or different supply chains in Asia that went to Mexico or went to US to do this specialized skills. Now, Agus mentioned that, the head of fulfillment. Yeah, Coupang. Coupang is an amazing story, Korean. I think increasingly e-commerce giant. Increasingly for the e-commerce side, the talent is highly mobile. I think they join, and it's such in many ways, I'm thrilled by e-commerce because it has pushed the boundaries of what is possible, right? I mean, in terms of speed, at the lower cost in terms of convenience. I think a lot of the innovation that has happened in the world in the last 5 to 10 years has been coming from that world of e-commerce. At the same time, I think the trick, and Agus can confirm or disinform this, the trick is how do you keep them? Because there's such a fight for people that come from the e-commerce world. Also big companies like the Unilevers, the Zaras of the world, the H&Ms of the world, you name it, right? The Apples of the world, they want this skill set of ability to go to market fast, to create these distribution networks fast, to create this customer experience, that great customer experience for their consumers fast. So it ends up being, yes, there's some great talent in these e-commerce companies, and everybody wants them, whether they are e-commerce or whether there are other companies out there, whether they're brands, whether they're retailers, whether they're whatever, whether it's this Google of the world, right, and Microsoft of the world. So I think the key is how do you keep them? How do you make it attractive? One element for sure, and I heard it from the sharing before, keep it flexible in terms of, okay, location, in terms of challenges, in terms of all of that. But I would say is no longer enough. So that level of making sure that your employees are consistently stretched, not overstretched to the point that they get exhausted as well. Fair compensation, of course, financials, and having that vision, mission of what is the company trying to achieve. I think Mercado Libre, by being a leader and continuing to push the envelope of what is possible in South America, would get that element of standings for something that would attract a lot of candidates. But I would say if you're a second, third, fourth player, or even down the food chain, it's a lot harder to attract the right talent. I mean, right now we're working with so you have the direct to consumer model, right? So Shein, you probably know that's the huge Chinese, they basically link the factory directly to us as consumers. You can buy online. They've mastered the art of TikTok marketing and so on. So we're working with a company that's kind of like the Shein model, but it's more on high-end goods. I can tell you it's not necessarily easy to attract the people to that particular company, right? Because it's not so huge. It doesn't have the same brand. And also now we are in a lot of the world, in a lot of the parts of the world, we are in a downturnish type of environment. So Europe for sure, US not yet, but I think it's going to hit. China is in a little bit of a downslide as well. So I think candidates are a lot more, and talent is a lot more careful about the, how safe is it? How future-proof is it? And who am I joining? And is there longevity in this job?